Stories tonight, a report on a program that is run by the feds, the Department of Veterans Affairs. This story came to us from a viewer email. Fred Harrop of Florida wrote, veterans, their spouses, and widows may be eligible for VA benefits to help with assisted living or nursing home costs. These programs have been a godsend to countless individuals. We asked NBC's Ann Thompson to do some checking on this little known about veterans benefit that it turns out few people who could benefit from are really aware of.
Sunshine, you make me happy.
At 83, Berdine Goldsmith can still harmonize.
How much I love.
To look at her, you wouldn't know she has Alzheimer's, but she can't live on her own.
What'd you have for breakfast?
A year ago, her daughter Betty moved Berdine into this assisted living facility in Dallas and got an unexpected assist from the government.
When you find out that there's a veteran's benefit to help your mom,
Right.
that's got to seem, it's thrilling. It's thrilling. It's just a real blessing.
The convoy puts to sea on the...
Berdine's husband Hubbard served in World War II, a Navy medic in the invasion of Sicily. Because of that service, today Berdine gets about $900 a month, a quarter of her care. The other $3,000 comes out of Betty's and husband Ted's savings each month.
The financial burden is stressful enough, but then you have the emotional stress on top of that.
What's the next sign after that?
It's called the Aid and Attendance Benefit for at-home assisted living or nursing home care. Facility Director Michael Halliburton says it never fails to surprise families.
Well, it's shock and awe. Their eyes light up, their jaws drop. I've had people cry.
But the program is little known. Today, just 143,000 veterans and surviving spouses receive the benefit. The government says perhaps hundreds of thousands more could be eligible.
I think he'd be very proud of the fact that his service was being honored.
Hubbard Goldsmith helped his country then. His country helps his wife now. Ann Thompson, NBC News, Dallas.
Welcome to National Veterans Support. My name is Kelly Endres. I'm talking to you today from West Hills, California, and we have another office in Arcadia. But we help families all across the United States. That's why we're recording this webinar for your information. And I hope you find it valuable in that way, because we can help families wherever they may live. If you're looking for help when it comes to the VA and you get on the VA's website, this is a screenshot of their website, and you do a search and you type my name in, you'll see that I live in Sylmar, California, and that I'm one of only a few dozen accredited claims agents with the Veterans Administration. An accreditation is kind of a blessing, a license, you may say, or a authorization from the VA to an individual or organization to allow them to fill out forms for a veteran, represent that veteran to the VA, and be almost their legal counsel. On here you can see that there's attorneys, claims agents, and what are called VSOs, that's a Veteran Service Organization. And all of those who are accredited are allowed by federal law to help a veteran fill out and apply for government benefits through the VA. Attorneys, if you did a search in California, you would find several, many hundred, if not 1,000 accredited attorneys. VSOs, you're going to find several hundred of them. Claims agents, just a few dozen. The VSOs typically work for American Legion, Veterans of Foreign Wars, a county employee, or the State Department of California Department of Veteran Affairs. Generally stretched pretty thin, have a duty to assist all veterans. And I find that their phones are often, or their voicemails are quite full, and they're a bit overworked. Attorneys are usually doing trust work or elder care work, and claims agents can specialize. And I have decided to specialize in this benefit that we're learning about today, and that's this long-term care benefit, or aid and attendance, if you want to call it, through the Veterans Administration. But if you were to ask me how to get a loan through the GI Bill, I don't even have the application. The best I can do is give you an 800 number, whereas the VSOs probably got to give you an app and help you out with that. So that's a little bit about the different types of help that you can get with the VA. So we're not a government agency, we're not affiliated with any government agency, and we don't receive any federal, local, or state tax aid. I work for National Veteran Support, and we help all veterans and families. And we're a 501c3 nonprofit public benefit corporation, and we're funded by your donations, which we appreciate. When we get on the subject of long-term care, you may have received one of these long-term care cards, but it says Veterans Long-Term Care Benefit. We're on that subject. There's really only about 5 ways to pay for it when it comes down to it. And if you're unfortunate enough to be in a nursing home and have run out of money, you can get what's called Medicaid, or in California they call it Medi-Cal, to pay for your nursing home bill. But they're not going to pay for your assisted living bill. That's for skilled care in a nursing home. Okay? Or you're going to pay for your long-term care out of your own pocket, or the kids are going to pay for it out of their pocket. Or if you have a long-term care policy, that could certainly help. And the 5th way is what we're learning about today, is this Veterans Long-Term Care Program. And when it comes to cost of care, I got on the internet and did some searching, and I found a company called Genworth. And you could do this search yourself for any metropolitan area in the United States. I chose Los Angeles, and I wanted to find out how much does it cost for care. What if I want to hire a caregiver to come in the home, like for home health care, like get a visiting angel to come in? What's it going to run me? Well, the going rate's $25 an hour. And on a 40-hour work week, that's going to run you a little over $4,000 a month. Now, an adult daycare center is going to run you about $1,500 a month, and your average assisted living facility is about $4,500. Now, that's for a private 1-bedroom. That's a decent facility in Southern California. I've seen assisted living run anywhere from $2,000 to $10,000 a month, depending on how much care one needs. And it obviously can go up higher than $45,000 if you need a lot of care, $4,500 if you need a lot of care. And then there comes nursing home, which can run from $7,000 to $9,000 a month. And on an annual basis, a nursing home is going to cost you an average of $100,000 a year for nursing home care. And then here you can see on an annual basis that, you know, assisted living is a little over $50,000, as well as home health care being about that as well. So that gives you an idea of what the care runs. But how much is the VA going to pay? Well, it depends what category you're in. Are you single? Are you married? Or are you a surviving spouse? And these are the amounts for this year. This is 2019. These amounts are going to go up by 1.6% in December. So if you just add 1.6% to all these figures, you'll know what they're going to be for the year 2020. And that starts in December of 2019. But these are the maximums that the VA is going to direct deposit straight from the federal treasury directly into the bank account of the veteran or the spouse for the rest of their lives, as long as they maintain eligibility. And this is tax-free money. And I'm going to show you what's the math behind this, how do you get this, all right? Now, we saw this news clip from NBC News, and in that news clip, they said that this was for in-home care, assisted living, or nursing home. But they forgot to mention it also counts for board and care. Now, that's like a house or a residence that in California is licensed to have no more than 6 patients. So it also counts for that too. The benefit is a reimbursement benefit. You must spend the money in order to get the money. And it must be spent by the veteran or the spouse, not the kids. Oftentimes the kids are helping, fine. But if they are, don't pay the care expense, whether it's the caregiver or assisted directly if you're the child. Funnel that money or give that money to your folks, to the veteran or the spouse, and have the veteran or the spouse pay for that care, whether it's a caregiver or assisted living or what have you. And that money can come out of a joint account. That's fine, but it's got to be paid every month from here on out from the veteran or the spouse, because it's a reimbursement for their out-of-pocket medical, not the out-of-pocket medical that the kids are helping supplement. All right? You heard the term aid in attendance. Now, what is that? Well, to receive this benefit and get these maximum dollars that you just saw, you can't be golfing and get this benefit, or dancing. You're too healthy. You have to have a physician, any doctor, state that you have to have some aid of another person to help you with certain activities of daily living. Things like bathing, dressing, transferring, which we'll get into in more detail in a little bit. Or you need to have someone attend to you. Like when they say aid and attendance, the attendance isn't roll call. What they mean by that, that's an attendant. That's someone like a caregiver or someone that would help someone with those activities of daily living, bathing or dressing and so forth. So that's the aid and attendance portion on it. Has nothing to do with that other VA benefit that has to do with disability that was linked to their service. If the veteran was injured or has any form of disability, from a 10% disability rating to a 100% disability, due to some connection with their service, whether it be loss of hearing, poison from Agent Orange, loss of a limb, etc., they go to a VA hospital, see a VA doctor, and the doctor determines that it was indeed caused by or linked to their service, then they get compensated for that. And that's called service-connected compensation. And they have that done, and then they can apply and they can get a 10% to 100 to 150% compensation check from the VA. Many World War II vets have a 10% hearing loss, and they're getting a little over $100 a month for that 10% service-connected comp. And then they want to apply for this benefit. Well, the VA is going to pay them the higher of the two by law. They can't get both benefits. So if they do that and they're a single veteran, they're going to get over $1,800 a month. Well, great, and they're going to lose that 100 and some odd dollars if they're 10% service connected. But if you've got a veteran who suffered from Agent Orange and had his body completely poisoned, and he's at 100 or more or 150% disabled, and he's getting several $1,000s, well, keep it. There's no sense in applying for this because he's going to get way more than he would if he just applied for this benefit. So that's a little bit about what the benefit is, why they call it what it is, and how it's different from other VA benefits. When it comes to eligibility, you want to be a veteran or a surviving spouse of a vet who served active military for 90 consecutive days or more with 1 day during a period of wartime. And you got to come out with an honorable discharge or general. It can't be dishonorable. Our periods of war that we have are World War II, Korea, and Vietnam. Now, wars that are after this have a different set of rules, but for the most part, most people applying for this fall into these wartime periods. So an example would be our veteran going into World War II on December 31st, 1946. And if that was his first day of active duty, and he continued to serve another 90 days after that of continuous active duty service and come out with an honorable discharge, well, now that veteran would be eligible. And the same applies for Korea and for Vietnam, as long as for Vietnam the dates are between August 5th of 64 and May 7th of 75. Same rule. There's a little caveat on Vietnam where if the dates of service were only between February 28th of 61 and August 5th of 64, only those dates, then there's an additional in-country rule, which is quite difficult to prove. That's a boot-to-ground rule. And if that's the case, we need to probably talk on the phone, and you may need to get a hold of me directly to see what we can do to prove that. But those are our eligibility dates. So if the veteran passed away, his widow can be eligible. But if she divorced him, she's going to divorce the benefit. She would have to remarry a vet for a year in order to get it again. And we used to have a dating service, but that didn't work so well. So anyhow, that's our wartime, that's our eligibility points. Now, in that news clip that we saw, Mrs. Goldsmith was receiving $998 a month. Well, today, just only 300,000 people are receiving this benefit, yet in the news clip they said 143,000 people are getting the benefit. That's dated, that news clip. Yet the government says hundreds of thousands more are eligible. Well, something's fishy here. I don't know if any of you have raised your hand if you ever found out about this because you got a letter or a phone call from the VA. You know, I've asked that question for over 9 years, and I've never had someone tell me yes, which is unfortunate. I know the VA did put out a press release in 2001, and that's fantastic, but there's no active campaign saying, hey, come get this free money from the government. In fact, they're trying to save taxpayers' money, I'm sure, because 73% of Americans who apply for this straight to the VA get denied. They have a high denial rate, which is unfortunate because it is quite a bit of paperwork to get through. And but we help you with that. But to add even a little bit more salt to the wound, how many people do you think were in World War II active duty? Take a wild guess. I bet you didn't guess right because there were 16 million. There were 5 million active duty veterans in Korea, 9 million in Vietnam. That's 30 million active duty veterans that if they ever turned age 65 or older and needed some help, could have got this benefit, and yet we've only got 300,000 of them receiving it. Yes, there are not 16 million World War II vets left alive today. There's less than 500,000, and we're losing hundreds every day. But a lot of their wives, their surviving spouses are still around. And that's who we're really trying to reach now because I run into them all the time. I was giving this presentation out at an assisted living facility last year, ran into a 90-year-old lady in the hallway on her walker, and she saw me and said, hi, Sonny, are you with the, she pointed to my name tag and said, are you with a pharmacy? And I said, no, I'm here giving a veterans presentation. And she was with her friend, and I said, well, how long have you lived here? And she told me, well, I've been here for 6 years. And, well, how about your friend? Well, 5 years. Oh, okay. And were you ever married to a veteran? I asked her. Oh, yeah, he passed away a long time ago. And how about your friend? Same thing. All right. Did you ever remarry? No. Well, I don't ask that anymore. Okay. Why don't you come to our presentation? Maybe you'll learn something, and maybe you could get some money to help you pay for your rent here at your assisted living facility. She looked at me and she said, oh, honey, I'm not eligible. And I said, well, why? And she said, well, I wasn't married to him during the war. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? You didn't need to be married to him during the war. I didn't. No, you just need to be married to him for 1 year before he passed away. Well, I was married to that son of a gun for 54 years. And then she went, oh, no, you mean I could have been getting this benefit all these last 5 years I've been at this facility? And my kids wouldn't have had to been taking it out of their IRAs and their retirement funds to help pay for my rent? That's right. Can I get that money now? Oh, I'm sorry, that's water under the bridge. Oh, but we can certainly apply now. Let's try it. All too common. I could walk into any assisted living facility in the United States, find a 90-year-old-ish woman. Chances are she was married to a World War II vet, and she doesn't think she's eligible. So now that you've learned that, tell them, because no one else is. All right? This benefit's been around since 1951. It's funded by Congress. It's part of the defense budget, which you know is a big, big number. And the program was enhanced in 2001 to allow the cost of assisted living to also count. And so for 50 years, Congress couldn't determine why so few people were applying. Well, it was predominantly a nursing home benefit at that time. And I don't know about you, but who do you know who's in a hospital bed in a nursing home or a wheelchair that can fill out a 12-page document and supply about 12 supporting documents and try to get some money? Nobody. So Congress said, boy, what should we do? Maybe we should enhance it. And they did. And then the news clips came out, ABC, NBC, and people started finding out about it. And there's annual increases. Cost of living of Social Security goes up. So they generally increase the benefit by the same percentage Social Security is increased, and that's done every year in December. And Abraham Lincoln famously called for the good treatment of veterans. to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow, and for his orphan, and they did get it into law, so that's a very good thing. So when we apply for this benefit, there's no getting in the system early. When we apply, we need to make sure that we meet all the qualifiers, because if we don't and we get denied, we just shot ourselves in the foot. We may have to wait a year or longer or never get our money, so we don't want to do it that way. We only want to apply when we meet all the qualifiers, the medical, the income, and the asset. And I'm going to go through each one of these with you so that you understand how that works. So I already mentioned the fact that there's a medical component to this benefit. You can't be golfing and get it. A doctor, any doctor's got to say you got to have some help with these things called ADLs. They stand for Activities of Daily Living. And so you got to, here's a list of them. Things like needing help getting out of a bed, a chair, a wheelchair, or an automobile. They call that transferring, okay? Or you need help with dressing, or you need help with bathing, or you have to be escorted. Or you're not, ambulatory is the other word they use here, and you have trouble walking, so you got to have someone to help you with that. Or you need help getting on or off a toilet. Now, incontinence, by definition, if we look in Webster's dictionary, it's going to say lack of normal control. So if our loved ones had a potty accident or they're wearing Depends, you got incontinence. So that's unfortunately pretty easy one to qualify for. Now you need 2 of these in order to qualify. Needing help being fed, that's not meal preparation. Most people can feed themselves. They get a fork in the food and in their mouth. And the last one here is where assisted living counts, where someone is providing a supervision which prevents the person from harming themselves. For example, falling or over or under medicating or wandering. So these are the areas where you need 2 of these. There's a few others, blindness and so forth, but we go over this with you on the phone and review that to make sure you either are eligible or you aren't when on the activities, but you got to have, as a generality, you got to have help with about 2 of these, okay? All right, so the income qualifier has to do with all income from all sources. If you're married, it's combined. And what the VA does is they look at all of your income and they compare it to only certain medical expenses. Those are qualified medical expenses in order to offset it. What are we talking about? We're talking about either a caregiver, assisted living, board and care, or a nursing home. Those medical expenses, predominantly. And based on that comparison, the VA is going to determine how much money are they going to pay you on the card. So I'm going to show you the math on 2 examples. I'm going to do a caregiver example and an assisted living example to show you how you get the dollar amounts, okay? So let's pretend that we have a caregiver situation and our monthly income from Social Security, pension, interest, dividends, all our income is $1,800 a month, all right? And that our caregiver, now who could be a caregiver? Usually it's the spouse, but it can be anybody except the spouse, okay? You don't need a diploma. You don't need a certificate. What do you need? A canceled check and an invoice showing how much care you're giving, etc. All right? So oftentimes that's the kids, and they're not even getting paid, yet they could be, and then it can help qualify for this. So let's pretend that our caregiver's running us $2,000 a month. And our Medicare insurance premiums, that's premiums for B, C, D, E, F, all of those, I got $100 on here. I know it's just an estimate. So $2,100 in qualified medical expenses from $1,800 in income, well, that's going to put you short or negative $300 per month, okay? So what the VA is going to ask you is, what is your income for VA purposes? That's the legal term for this benefit. What is income for VA purposes? This formula you're looking at. Total qualified medical expenses from your income. And once that income for VA purposes is a bit negative, like it is here, a few $100s, then the claimant, that's mom or dad, is eligible for the maximum benefit on the card. Now, I'm not going into the whole detailed mathematical examples in the book because we're going to be here for a week if I had to show you that. I'm trying to make this very simple. Okay, the same formula applies in an assisted living example. Let's say your income per month, and you're married, perhaps, is $4,500 a month. And your assisted living facility costs you $4,500 a month. And you got some health insurance premiums. Fine. You're negative $300. Okay. Well, once your income for VA purposes is a bit negative, like it is here, then the claimant would be eligible for what? Your answer should be the maximum benefit. That's that slide I showed you earlier, and that's the dollar amount on the card. Okay, this could be negative $3,000. You're still only going to get the max benefit. But what if this wasn't a negative $300? What if it was a positive $300? If income for VA purposes was a positive $300, would you get the max? No. Would you get a partial? Yes. If that was a positive $300 because your income exceeded your expenses by $300 in this example, then take that positive $300 away from the max and you get the difference, give or take 50 or $100. And then down the road, perhaps your medical expenses increase, and then you notify the VA with more of their forms, and then they would increase your benefit. I'd say of the 1,200 or more claims I've processed in the last 9 years, that 95% of them were getting the max benefit. And the reason for that is people understand how it works, and now they understand that, and they find those medical expenses that are qualified that they didn't know about before. So we've covered 2 of the 3 qualifiers. We've covered the medical, and we've covered the income. The third qualifier has to do with assets or net worth. Now, these numbers changed because the laws changed back in October of 2018, and the VA implemented a 3-year transfer or a look back on transfers of assets. So, okay, if you have more than $300,000 in net worth, you're likely going to wait 3 or more years before you apply. Your primary residence and all of its equity does not count as an asset. That primary residence is exempt. But if you got more than $300,000, you're going to wait more than 3 years probably to get the benefit. But every case is different. It depends on where you have your assets. There are spend down guidelines I can walk you through. So maybe we can get your benefit in a year and a half if you got several $100,000. But I'll explain and guide you through any necessary adjustments in income or assets in order to qualify. You're going to want to call us and schedule an appointment in order to do that, so we can review that together, you and myself. Now, these are veterans that over the years that have received the benefit. And this lady in the bottom left corner was a Marine. Her name was Rosa Cromie. And she was a bit of a guinea pig with the VA because she was one of the first people this side of the Mississippi to receive this benefit back in 2001 when they enhanced the program. She heard a presentation like this in her assisted living facility, and she said, boy, I can't live here much longer. I'm running out of money. Can you help me fill out my VA forms? And my mentor at the time said, sure, Rosa, I'll help you. You know, she was in a wheelchair on oxygen, and she turned it in for her, and she waited for about 6 months. She got a letter back from the VA. She called him up and said she had bad news, and he said, what's the matter, Rosa? And she said, well, you know, I got a letter from the VA, and they denied me. And he said, well, wait a minute. And he went over and looked at it and said, wait a minute, the VA is all wrong here. It's right here in the law book. You were applying for this benefit, aid and attendance, which is a pension, by the way, and you applied for that, but you weren't applying. They're denying you for service-connected compensation. You weren't in battle or no, she wasn't in combat. She had a desk job. Well, let's fix it. Turn it back in. The next month, she gets another letter. She's denied again. Now what? Well, they want her to get a physical. She doesn't need a physical. She needs a doctor form on a VA form to fill out to show that she's got the disability. Fix it. Turn it back in. Next month, she gets denied again and again and again, 7 times. Finally, 19 months later, she gets an approval in the mail with a retroactive check for $14,000 back to the month she applied. Needless to say, if she could have done cartwheels, she would have. But obviously, she was pretty happy at that time. And since then, the VA's gotten better or worse at handling these claims. There's been periods of bad backlogs and top guys getting canned and turmoil. I can't control whose desk your claim's going to land on at the VA. I have no power and control over that. But what I can control is that your claim file is perfect. All the T's crossed, All the I's dotted. It's approvable. It should go through smooth and easily the first time with no back and forth. Last thing we want to do is play ping pong with the VA, all right? So what's an approval look like? Well, here's Estelle. We got her approval. Now, there's a backlog right now at the VA, and there's quite a bit of a traffic jam. We got this claim into the VA on the 19th of November. She didn't get approved until July. She got the max benefit that you can see down at the bottom here of $1176 and $1209. So she got a retroactive check in July for 9 months worth of money. 9 times $1209. She got a $10,000 or $11,000 deposit into her bank account, and every month after that, it's been automatic. This one got stuck in their traffic jam, which was caused, I believe, and I don't have this officially, by the law change and all the forms they changed back last year, because we experienced this in about April that all of a sudden the traffic jam hit. And it could change. We don't know. We'll see. Now, John, we got him approved in July. We turned in his claim in May. That was 2 months. That's what we were averaging previously, right? And he got the full amount of $1,830 in May, so he was happy. There's a married veteran that we got the claim approved in January. We submitted that claim in December. They got the $2,230. This one took less than 2 months. There's another one that we got recently. Now, this went through the traffic jam and snuck through. So here we got one that was sent in July 8th, and they got approved on September 26th. So July, August, September, not bad. So those are copies of approvals, all right? So here's some thank yous. I got a lot of appreciation, a lot of thank yous. It's my duty. I feel like I'm helping everyone that I meet, and I want to make sure that those veterans that serve get what they're entitled to, as well as their surviving spouses. Now, we have a benefit workbook. Now, this is not a VA form by any chance. This is just a pre-qualifier. It's a workbook. You and I review this together over the phone or in person. And what this does is enable me to determine, do you have an approvable claim or not? And we'll spend some time going through this. And what is this? This contains everything I just went over with you. Are you eligible? What's your medical situation, your income and your asset, and can we get you approved on a VA claim? So we want to see this workbook filled out from you. That's all we need is our next step, is to review this with you and determine if you have an approvable claim. And if so, great. We'll get started. We'll actually fill out your forms for you. I will. I'm an accredited claims agent with the VA. I fill out your forms for you. We make sure that they're done properly so that when we submit it, we're not going to play frustration. All right? So if we review this workbook and you're not approvable, maybe you haven't moved into assisted living, maybe you haven't paid for care, maybe you got way too much money or you're selling a home or something, well, we'll talk about that, see what legal avenues you have to solve that problem. Maybe in a month or two you can come back and we'll help you out. We do ask for support and donations at that point in time, so that's we ask for something at that time. So that's our benefit workbook. The honorable discharge is an important document that we have to include as part of the claim file. And when we give it to the VA, they're not going to give it back to you, and they're going to keep it. So I don't like that. I want you to be able to keep your original, because they want either an original or a certified copy of your honorable discharge. So I'm going to show you how to get a copy of one for free from the National Personnel Records Center out of St. Louis, Missouri. They're the ones that houses all these, and they'll get you a certified one for free. It's pretty simple to do. Instructions are on our website on how to do that. You're going to do that when you go to archives.gov. So when you're all done here, you're going to want to call us and set an appointment with me, fill out your workbook, order your discharge at www.archives.gov. Step-by-step instructions on how to do that are on our website, or we can email those to you directly. And it's fairly simple, 5 or 10 minutes on the computer. There's a video you need to watch on how that's done. Some of them burned in the fire. We understand. You can get the document. You need to get the certified. The VA wants a certified copy, not a photocopy, a certified copy or the original, okay? And they don't give it back. Now, when you order it, they'll give you 2 of them for free, automatically. You don't have to request 2. They give everybody 2 of them, okay? You want to get your workbook to us for an appointment. You can do that in person, or we'll do that over the phone. You can fax or email that to us. And you want to wait for your honorable discharge to come in the mail, because that's part of your homework. You are going to get homework from me, but I try to make it easy, okay? So that's our presentation. I hope you learned something. I hope you find this informative. Our phones are open. You can contact us, and we'll try to answer any of your questions and help you out. We do help with determining your eligibility. We help assist you through the whole claims process. We help fill out your forms for you, and we help make sure you keep your benefit year after year. That's important. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this, and I want to thank all those veterans who served, and good day and good night.